Welcome to an episode of Jay Leno's Garage Restoration Blog. Something very special today. 2 days ago, literally 2 days ago, a policeman we know in the neighborhood came by and said, "Hey, old guy up the street died. He's kind of a hoarder. I think he has a car in his garage." I said, "Let's go take a look at it." About a mile, a little more than a mile up the street. The house looked like it had been abandoned. You know, it looked like a hoarder lived there, overgrown, paper, newspapers in the windows, that kind of stuff. We opened the garage door. Here's the picture. Here's what it looked like. As you see, this guy was a hoarder. Just stuffed with everything. Water heaters, saved everything. Well, who saves old water heaters? Everything. Blankets. He says there's a car under there. I don't know what it is. All right, let's start to peel it on. Well, started to peel away. And here's what we found under the water heaters. 1963 Jaguar XKE. Not just any Jaguar XKE. This car has 17,100 and something like 87 miles on it. This is just as we pulled it out of the garage. We haven't taken the dirt off. We're going to clean this up over the next couple of months and get it running. It hasn't run in 50-something years. It was parked in the garage in the 70s. The guy bought it new. It's a one-owner car. Being under all the blankets and the water heaters really protected it because there's no body rot on it. There's no corrosion. The interior looks brand new. Let's open the hood up. I'll show you something interesting. Everything is exactly as it should be. It was just put away wet, I guess you'd say, and sat for 50 years. It is not brand new, but pretty close to brand new. It's about original Jaguar as you're going to find. Here's something that really makes it original. Come around here, I'll show you. You see, it says right there under the wing, 5936. That was put on by the factory. Those are the chalk marks they put on. The same marks are on here, and you see them in other parts, which means this thing never got wet enough or corroded enough for those things just to wear off. The interior, well, this door is a little frozen. On the trunk, all the original books. You have the original Jaguar toolkit. This is the toolkit you got with it when you bought the car brand new. I mean, all the little bits and pieces are here. This guy bought this car, drove it, and then just parked it. Most people don't even know what this is. This came with every Jag in the toolkit. This is a Dunlap disc brake. It's a bleeder hose to bleed the brakes. This was part of the kit you got when you bought the car. The original jack is in here. If you go on eBay and you see what they're asking for XKE Jaguar jacks, it's crazy, crazy money. It's pretty amazing. This color is unusual. Using all of our products that you may have seen in the last restoration blog, we're going to try and bring this paint back. The first thing we're going to do is cosmetically clean this car and see how good we can get it. I think this is going to be a preservation car. We're not going to turn it into a show car. We're not going to repaint it because it is so original. That's what makes it really exciting. This might be the lowest original mileage XKE around. I certainly haven't seen one lower. I'm sure in England at the factory or there's somebody XKE club that has one, but just to find something like this, you know, that's the fun thing about living here. Lockheed Martin Aircraft was right across the way. And there were so many engineers and airplane guys that lived in this area that all these garages around here just have some interesting stuff. Amelia Earhart lived right down the street. Her Franklin was there. I bought a 1927 Duesenberg out of a garage 15 years ago that was parked in 1945, and the garage had not been opened since then. And this is the same thing. This was parked either in the late 60s or early 70s. I mean, I passed that house every day almost on my way to work. I never thought or knew what was in there, but this is what was in there. All the original pieces are here. Come around, let me show you the interior. The interior is probably the most amazing part. All right, take a look at the dashboard. Take a look at the steering wheel. The door panels, they look, if not brand new, pretty close. There's a little bit of tear here in the stitching, but that's it. This leather is still pretty supple. They covered it in plastic, and the whole thing was just covered in blankets. And Even that aluminum tray, that changed in late 63, early 64 to a leather piece. I always liked that piece of aluminum. And most of these you see, it's all scratched and cut up because of watches or rings or people put things on there. It still looks almost brand new. It's an amazing car. There's no rust. The doors don't sag. Look at that, because they've been shut for 50 years. I think this paint will come back. I think this is going to be a pretty color once we get it. You know, most of these are white or red. I mean, this is an unusual color. It was ordered in this color with the tan interior. Really something kind of different. This is going to be a pretty exciting auto. But those are the original tires. When we dragged it out, it had 4 flat tires. We put some air in them, they hold air. Obviously, we're going to change the tires at some point. The original radiator, those unusual finned radiators like that, most have some modern aluminum unit, but that's as it was from the factory. So it would be a shame to resto-mod this car or even restore it. This is a case of preservation, especially anybody who has a Jag and they want to know, well, how is it done at the factory? What kind of fittings did they use? Well, you can look at this car as your guide. You see all these little hose clamps and everything here? That's what makes it pretty amazing. I'm sure it's going to need a new brake master cylinder, clutch master cylinder, and some other pieces like that. But I think this is going to be a really exciting project. Well, here's where we are now, about a month or so later. We still have not taken the original dirt off the car or cleaned the original top. How many cars from 1963 still have the original top? You know, the fun thing about finding something like this that's perfectly preserved. You know, a lot of times when I see Jags at a show and they're all beautifully restored, they just have the wires going directly to the plugs. But they forget about this piece. This is an original piece that when the cars were built. It's called the ignition wire conduit. It's a fiber-like material that is extremely brittle and usually breaks, and most people just leave it off. There's no reason to have it. Well, I suppose there is. That's why it was on in the first place. But most people just ignore it and, you know, have the wires or some other kind of loom to hold it. So you just have an original piece like that. This is one of the few pieces where we replaced this overflow tank up top here, because this thing was just driven in the garage one day and shut off. You know, it wasn't drained, wasn't pickled, as they say. So these tend, well, you can see all the rest. So we've got a new tank on there. So we're just replacing as necessary, but trying to keep it as original as possible. You know, my friend Miles Collier wrote a book called The Archaeological Automobile, and it's about preserving cars. You know, back in the 80s, I guess, when I really got into this kind of stuff, 70s and 80s, the idea was to make it look brand new, look better than new. You know, Pebble Beach, and people have tweezers and they're pulling blades of grass out from between the treads so the car looks perfect. The idea, I think, nowadays is to just sort of preserve it as it was, because like they say, it's only original once. And it's fun to drive a car like this exactly as it left the factory. You know, a lot of times people put way too much horsepower in them and change everything, and I'm as guilty as that as anybody. But you realize modern cars are so fast, it's not going to be faster, so why not put it back to the way it was originally? The one change I am going to make is a little wider wire wheel to get a better tire on it, just to make it handle a bit better. Right now, we're pulling the brakes out. Obviously, we replace pads and brake cylinders and you know, the brake hoses and stuff in the interest of safety. In fact, you look at these bugs in the radiator, these are all 50 years old. And this is the way the radiator was done at the factory back in the day. I'm not even sure you can get these anymore. Everything else here will be cleaned, like the gold cylinder head, that's the way they came. This, of course, is a 3.8 liter engine with the Moss 4-speed gearbox, no synchro in first. You know, once you drive this, you realize 1963 was a long time ago. But look, even the headers here are not all cracked and from heat distortion or anything. What usually happens is water comes in through the vents in the top, and you know, just kind of, well, just cracks everything. You're pouring water on a hot engine. But since it doesn't rain that much in Southern California, we don't have that problem. Come on around here to the back. I'll show you the rear end we just pulled out. As you can see, we pulled the rear end out of the car just to go through everything. Opened up the differential. What a pleasant surprise. Almost brand new. No wear marks, nothing. I mean, it was 17,000 pretty easy miles, not like the guy raced this thing. We're not going to paint anything here. We're just cleaning it up, as you can see, but look at this. Everything is nicely done. There's no chunks out of it. There's nobody's beating this with a hammer, you know? So just clean it up, replace gaskets where necessary, obviously change the fluids, and then put it back in again. The idea is to get it back on the road as good as it was the day it drove into the garage back in '68. So that's pretty much where we are. But the wonderful thing about this is there's no rust at all here. The only rust was, as I said, in that water tank, because obviously it's filled with water. But look how clean it is in here. Original paint. Look at that. Important. Disconnect battery before removing cover. There you go, right there. Even the gas tank looks pretty good. We did have a problem with this door, but now it's fine. This door wouldn't open. It was just frozen. But taking it apart and a lot of WD-40, and now it seems to be fine. The interior, as I said, it looks not brand new, but boy, it looks pretty new. It doesn't, it looks like it's probably 5 or 6 years old as opposed to 50-year-old. That's pretty much where we are with this. We'll keep you updated. This is going to take a while because we've got a lot of other projects. Of course, it's right next to our Detroit Electric right here. We're hoping to have this done in, well, about another 3 or 4 months. I think I've showed you the, yeah, we haven't moved a whole lot since the last one. We've had other projects we've been working on. Come on, let's show you some more stuff. This is the '57 Cadillac. Last time we saw it on the restoration blog, I think it was probably in the paint booth a while back. I got to check and see. As you can see, the paint has turned out beautiful. Interior's in. The only variation from stock under the hood is obviously a modern Optima battery, because they don't leak and they don't, you know, the gases don't rust out the hood or ruin the pad or anything like that. And a modern air conditioning system. That is a Vintage Air. We use them almost exclusively here and everything because they fit in any car we have. We can get a Vintage Air unit in there to keep it cool. And it really makes it a pleasurable car to drive because it saves the interior. The windows aren't open all the time and dirt blowing in. So that works pretty good. We're going to do a road test on this one very, very soon. We finally got it running. Took it on an initial road test yesterday. Brakes aren't gripping the way they should. We got a problem there. A couple of misfires in the engine. But something I want to show you that's really great. Okay. This is probably the biggest problem when you have an older car, especially from the late 50s or early 60s. The dash. So many times I go to car shows and I see the car's beautiful, but the dash has got some kind of matching duct tape over the crack from the sun, you know, that cracks it and all that. Or they're just sort of warped from sitting outside, whatever it might be. And where do you find one of those? I got just the solution. A place down the street being called Just Dashes. It's amazing. We bought the 442 in there because the 442 was beautiful. Everything was great on it, except the dash was just kind of cracked and it just didn't look good. But where do you find a dash for a '66 Oldsmobile 442? Well, you can get a brand new one. Here, take a look. Hey everyone, how are you?
Hi, Jay.
Jason, how you doing? Now, I'll tell you why I love this place. See, I like people who specialize in stuff. Like my favorite hamburger place is In-N-Out because all they sell are hamburgers. No burritos, no chicken sandwiches, no nothing. You guys are just dashes. You got a dashboard they can fix. Because that's probably one of the most frustrating things about restoring a car. You can do all the mechanical work and the body work, but a dashboard is almost beyond anybody, certainly a home person, working out of their garage. It's almost beyond their capability. So let's start. This is a typical dash right here that comes in?
This is a 1973 Trans Am Firebird.
Okay, yeah, that looks pretty bad. Now, is that just, was that a car sitting just out in the sun outside? What's the story? You don't know.
Any given dash, we're not really sure the entire story. A lot of them are family projects.
Right.
A lot of them could be concourse restorations. Whatever it is, we were able to.
Well, you might remember on my website where I had a 66 442. Car was beautiful. Everything was done, except the dash didn't fit right and it had some cracks. And nothing we could do about it other than putting black tape or trying to fill it in, or just look and see that thing. You guys love that kind of stuff. Oh, that's right. That's right. And I brought it to you guys, and it looks like a factory piece.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as good as a factory. So where do we start? How does the process work? Do I call you up? I tell you what I have, and can you make just about any dashboard?
Just about anything between 60 and 2,000.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what, I pack it up, I send it to you?
Most of our clients will either bring it into us, ship it into us. Yeah. We try to keep that process as simple as possible. As long as you can get it here, we'll take care of it.
And what part of the original dash do you use? Just the metal pieces and everything else is replaced? How does it work?
A lot of these dashes will have some sort of plastic or metal substructure to it.
Right.
What we're going to be doing is stripping off a lot of the old ratty material and restructuring that with brand new foam. Okay. But the first process is to make sure that the structure of it is sound.
Now, how does that work? Do you have molds for like Trans Am, Camaro, Mustang, or is each one pretty much just start from scratch?
Everything is hand built. So
wow.
We use very, very few molds here. Everything is hand structured, so our craftsmen really know what they're doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So where do we go here? Let's see. Did you just unpack this? This came from somebody, basically?
This has been sitting around for a little while, but we try to get to things in a timely manner. So, right. But yeah, this is essentially how it came out of the box. We have not touched this thing yet. And
it really doesn't make any difference whether it's just a little crack or whether the whole thing is shot, because you have to do the whole thing anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's all one piece, so
exactly.
It's not like one that's totally trashed is going to be the same price really as one that's...
Yeah, there's some variations, but for the most part, we've seen pretty much anything and everything.
Right. And as long as the structure itself is good, the skeleton or whatever, what do you call that? Skeleton of it?
Substructure.
Substructure, okay.
Yeah.
As long as that's in pretty good shape, you're okay.
Yeah, okay. Pretty much.
All right, so now where does it go from here? Can you show us the next step?
Yeah, so what we'll do is kind of, specifically for these, we get a lot of these. We have about 20, 30 of these in the building right now. And what we're basically going to be doing is putting blockouts to rebuild the radio areas. Really common that these were cut out for single DIN radios.
Right.
Over the years.
Go down to Ed and Al's Auto Sound.
Yeah, so we have 3D printed parts for radio areas, the steering column areas.
I got it.
And we can pretty much replace anything on this one because it is so common.
And how much of it is one piece? I mean, that whole except for...
It's all one piece.
It's all one piece,
yeah.
Okay.
It's all one piece under there.
I see.
So sometimes these will come in, someone doesn't brace this thing, it comes completely obliterated.
Right.
And, it costs a little bit more, but we can do the structural.
And you have replacement substructures as well, I imagine.
Yeah, if we really totaled situations, we'll suggest just replacing.
And what's the easiest one to do? GM?
Like a 67 Camaro.
Yeah.
It's just a little thin pad right at the top of the dashboard.
Right.
And there's not much to it. A 70s Dodge Dart.
Yeah.
It's just thin and it comes down on the sides.
Okay.
The more complicated ones would be like a 59 Cadillac.
Right, okay. Yeah, that has a lot of chrome and all the other pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you do the chrome pieces as well, or just the...
We specialize in the foam shaping and thermal vacuum forming aspects of it. Rechroming metal, leave that to the experts.
And what's the most common problem? It's been sitting in the sun and the foam dries out, and because a lot of times they're not torn, they're just warped, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so over time it dries out, and part of the drying out process is the foam degrading underneath, and it just starts chipping away. So you can
Right.
kind of just snap it like plastic.
So you probably recommend keep one of those reflectors in the.
Yeah.
Especially you live in California, or don't because it's good for business.
Or don't.
Yeah, don't want to use one of those.
Yeah, don't be too protective over it. You want people to see your brand new dash, but my dad has always said, keep it clean. That's the best thing you can do.
Well, it's a great business because I talk to guys back east, and you guys are the only people in the country that really do this, from what I can see, which is great. So what's the next step? Okay, you get a guy from New Jersey, sends you his dashboard. What do you start tearing it apart? Is that the next thing?
Yeah. So after the substructure supports, we take it over to foam shaping.
Is that what this is over here?
Yep.
Okay.
And we
Show us what we do
restructure
here.
the whole thing. So after we've torn down the old foam, what we do is we restructure it with a high-density 2-part foam.
Oh, okay. Is that similar to what they used back in the day, or is it different?
No, this is a bit of a different process. What they used to do is injection foam molding.
Okay.
So they'd have these big casts that they'd be able to plug in all these different tubes into, and then you get this spongier type of foam which degrades. And we went to a closed cell foam a few decades ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you started the business, right?
Right.
So what year did you start?
1981.
Oh, 81, okay.
Yes.
Did people think you're crazy at the time? Like, how many people need a dashboard? I mean, did it seem unusual to people?
Well, that's how I started the business. I had a Datsun 240Z with a cracked dash, and they all had cracked dashes.
All had cracked, yeah.
And nobody knew how to fix it. And I went around all over Southern California looking for someone that could repair my dash. I couldn't find anyone, so that's when I thought, hey, this is a business I can live with. I was always a car enthusiast.
Yeah, you're like the guy, so I liked it so much I bought the company. And you're right, there was nobody else doing it.
Right.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. All right. So, okay, now you got the foam. Well, what's the next step?
So after we've laid down the new foam, from there, it's all grinding and shaping and getting back to that original factory shape again.
And how long does it take to form a dashboard and do the whole deal?
It depends on the type of dash, but it could go anywhere from 8 hours to 40 hours.
Okay, so it's pretty labor intensive, isn't it?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so it's actually, so there's no mold. You're actually shaping it.
Yep, it's all hand shaped work. So. We have people who've been with us for 30 years.
And they just sort of know by osmosis, I guess, just the various shapes. Well,
we have a lot of samples. We have a lot of schematics to go off of. And we have a lot of skilled people doing it.
You still have that Datsun?
Yeah, it's out in the parking lot.
Really? Oh, it's still got the new dash?
No, I sold that one, but I
one.
replaced it with
you got
another one.
Oh, okay, very good. You put a new dash in that one too?
No, it's got an original dash. One of the reasons I bought the car.
Right. Oh, okay. Cool. All right, very good. Okay, so what's our next step?
So after we've done all the structural repairs to it, we get a nice thin sheet of aesthetic foam.
Okay.
And that will give us a nice cushion.
Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Where do we go for that? Over here?
Right over here.
Okay, so what do we have here?
So this is another Trans Am dash where we're just in the final phases of putting a very thin sheet of aesthetic foam so it'll have a nice cushion when it's all
aesthetic
done.
foam, it goes over this part here?
Yeah, it's really just there to kind of smooth out some surfaces and give us that spongy feeling at the end of the job.
Are almost all dashes black? I guess they are, aren't they? Or
We can make them whatever color you need them to be.
You can do colors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Very
we can make them whatever color you need them to be. And, what color do you want?
Okay. Well, no, black is fine. They all seem to be black, but then again, I've seen older Cadillacs have a blue or
whatever. And sometimes they have like a metallic flake in it.
Right.
We can do all that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this one is a matter of laying. And how does that go on? Is it? It's not. It goes on as one piece.
Yeah. Right behind you is.
Oh, here it is. Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes
and
in.
you can see.
So
it does have a little bit of a.
Yep. So
cushion.
we'll take a lot of that off so we get as thin as
Okay.
possible.
So you put it on in like sort of strips, or
Yeah, I mean,
it's not obviously not one piece that's cut to fit. No.
Most of it's one piece.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we
Okay.
use heating and stretching to get it on in one piece.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, where do you go from here?
From here, after foam shaping, we'll check out the vacuum former.
Let's check out the vacuum former. Okay. How does this work? What do we do?
So with vacuum forming, it's really important that the material itself gets to a nice, even, hot temperature.
Right.
So this is going to back up into the oven here, and after it gets hot, it comes out here. The Trans Am dash is going to come up through the vinyl,
Okay.
and then it's going to get drawn out.
Oh. Now, where did this machine come from? Did you guys have this purpose built, or did it exist and you bought it? How'd that work? Did you design it?
No, it was made by a company that specializes in vacuum forming machines, and
I
they
see.
built it to our specifications.
Right, oh, I see. Okay, so you built it obviously just for dashboards.
They were very confused
Yeah.
with the request.
So the vinyl's going under the.
In the oven.
In the oven, so it'll take about 10-15 minutes for it to heat up, and then we'll pull out the
You don't
drawer.
do pizzas, but no.
Maybe next year.
You could.
And how old is this process of vacuum forming?
Since we had an old machine,
Okay.
the first machine
Right.
that we used that was built in 1947.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know how old the process was. Yeah.
Yep.
That's about how old the vacuum forming process is.
Oh, literally sucks it out. Wow, that's cool. Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. Now the water is just to cool it.
Right, to cool
Yeah.
it down real fast. There it is.
All right.
Dumb question. It's just regular water. It's not. It doesn't need to be distilled or anything like that.
Just regular water.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Like foreign cars use Evian or Perrier.
LA's finest.
Yeah. Wow. And now it looks like a dashboard. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
We're 99% there.
Right. Okay.
Just
Now-
a little bit more.
And that's great. And it looks. I mean, well, that's the way they do it at the factory, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. Very good. Now, what happens? We let that cool for a little bit,
Yeah, it needs another minute to cool, and then it'll go into trimming and repairs.
and is that the final step?
Final step will be the paint department.
Oh, paint. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what do you paint? Oh, because unless they want a different color, right?
Yeah, even with black dashes, we'll give it a little dusting because you'll see that there's a little bit of a sheen to it.
Oh, I see. So you actually paint. It's not. You don't use a different sort of material that's a color.
No,
No,
all the vinyl's black.
All the vinyl's black, and then you paint it.
yeah.
Is it hard to paint? I mean, to get a light blue color on black, is that tricky?
A few more coats.
Two more coats. Okay.
Yeah.
That vinyl is designed to be painted.
Right.
And at the factory, which I was at the factory years ago, they paint every piece of vinyl that comes out of there, even if it is black,
Right,
because
right.
it has this gloss to it.
Right. Gotcha. Wow, that looks incredible. It's now just a matter of trimming and kind of shaping it a little bit. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So what's the next step?
Trimming.
Trimming. Yeah.
We're going to trim the excess vinyl from around the perimeter of the dash and fit all of the openings, the vents, the bezels.
Oh, let's go there. Check it out.
All right.
Oh, now the high-tech part.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of hand labor stuff, more than I thought actually, but this is the high-tech 3D printer. Look at that.
Yeah, we're starting to see these parts coming in worse and worse shape, and we're kind of preparing for the inevitability that we start running out of them and we need to start making our own.
Right, so are you making the substructure here? Is that what you're doing?
We're going to be able to do a lot of different things, substructures, full dash pads. Coupled with the thermal vacuum forming process, we can make just about anything with this.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. You know, people have their own shop like I do. We say we restore a car. We restore as much as we can. Then we rely on guys like you guys to really give it that really factory look. And, you know, you can't make your own dash at home. You just can't do it. And thank you so much for having this business, because you really save it. I mean, this is something that probably seemed crazy when you started it. You go, how many people want a new dashboard? But are you surprised at how big the business has gotten?
I am.
Yeah?
And I'm surprised of the longevity.
Yeah. Did you ever think, oh, I might have to get a real job someday? We'll be able to do this?
Many times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, no, I think you're going to be around a long time because it really is great to be able to give something that factory finished, right off the showroom floor kind of look that you can't duplicate. I mean, you can polish and wax and paint, but you can't do that, and that's what's really good. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jim.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. So you need a dashboard. Place to go. You know, we acquire cars in interesting ways. A lot of times people have a car they love, but the engine's blown or it's in sad shape. They don't know what to do with it. So they call me and ask me if I wanted it. That was the case with this 1974 TR6 Triumph. The body's all there, pretty nice shape, not too bad, but the engine just needed everything. Valves were bent, the cam was worn out. Yeah. So we pulled the engine, went through the whole thing. Putting it back to stock, did a slight touch-up under the hood here with matching paint. So it's going to be a great car. It's going to be a great runner, a great car to just take out in the hills and drive around or run some errands with. It's not going to be like a, 100-point restoration or anything like that, but it'll all be stock. And, well, it's running now. We just got a few more things to do with this. And we'll do a full, road test and everything on this one when it's done. We'll feature it under the light box and do all that. So I'm just showing it to you now. It sat for about 2 years. When I got it, it just seemed overwhelming. I had so many other broken projects. So we finally got around to it and we're ready to go. Come on, let's move on to the next thing. Well, this is the front clip to the 63 XKE we just looked at. We took it over here because we wanted to try and see if we could bring this paint back. Notice it's still got all the 50 area at a time, using some of the products we developed here at the garage, the Jay Leno car care stuff. Trying to bring back this color. This is called opalescent sand. This is primer under here. I guess he scraped it or something, or somebody did in the garage. But I think this can come back. You see, it looks okay. It looks nice there. It looks nice. So we're just doing one little area, just trying to see if it is salvageable, and it appears to be. Obviously, when we're done, we'll probably still have that scrape there, but that's okay, because this is going to look like a 5-year-old XKE from 1968, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. I just want to keep it as original as possible, which can be a real challenge, because when you can buy stuff like that water tank, I'm replacing that because there's so much rust inside, it'll just eventually work its way into the engine. It was so fortunate that the 63 Jag was here in Southern California because it didn't rust at all. It was that overflow water tank. This all looks good. I'm thinking we can bring this paint back. So that's what we're hoping. We're just doing one little section at a time. It's fun when you develop your own products because you know exactly how much damage they'll do or how little damage they'll do. And so when we know what's in the product, then we feel safe to use it on the vehicle. And that's what we're doing here. Just, preservation is almost, in some ways, harder than a restoration. A restoration, just replace it, So many parts available now. But it's fun to be able to keep it as it was in 63. Now, another project that's been down for, 3-4 years now, is our Doble steam car. Let me tell you what happened there. A Doble runs on a much higher pressure than other steam cars. Stanleys can run at 250 degrees, 300 degrees. A Doble be about 750, 800 degrees. It runs on superheated steam, which you need an oil that can take that kind of temperature. I advertised, a guy called me and said, oh yeah, I make that oil. Okay, he gave it to me. It wasn't, it was just regular steam oil. It wasn't high temp steam oil at all. But it really lunched the whole motor because everything just scored the cylinders. And so we had to make all new internal parts for the Doble. I'll show you how that's going, come on. Okay, these are the internals of our Doble steam car engine. As much as we like 3D printing, and it's great, it's like a boon, it saved the hobby. you can't beat a skilled machinist, someone who can really just make anything out of metal. You know, the fun thing about handmade things is hands haven't changed, so you can still make them again. It just takes a lot of skill. It makes you realize how talented these craftsmen were. For example, these are the pistons from a Doble steam car. This is the high pressure piston. This is the low pressure piston. And you have four. You have, well, it's a 4-cylinder engine. Okay, here you go. Now, what happened was, I mentioned the steam oil, all these parts to score because it wasn't lubricating. It was burning off and it ruined it. So we have to make all these new pieces. Here's a blank that Bernard has already started on. As you can see, he hasn't cut the grooves. This is such a complex engine. These are your valves to let your steam in, okay? Bernard made these, the whole piece. Here, well, I'll show you, here are the original. These are the originals as it came from the factory. It looks like some kind of bad Tootsie Pop or something, but as you can see, it's all, it just scores. And there are piston rings that go in here. You got to get the piston rings, have the piston ring made. And there's a lot of piston rings in this thing. If you count all the pieces, probably about 84, something like that. Here are the brand new ones Bernard made right here, as you can see. And you can see up here it's cracked and broken from distortion and heat and not having the right lubricant. But this is really the machinist's art. It's amazing that Bernard is able to do this. These are the cylinders here. We will get this thing back together. Here is another piston in process. Okay. But like, that's pretty much where we are. We've got a lot more work to do here. Oh, okay, here are our piston rings. Had those made in England, right here. Well, it goes around the valves and pistons everywhere. You know, a steam engine is different than an internal combustion engine. Internal combustion engine, you want to get the heat out. A steam engine, you want to keep the heat in. Any place heat is escaping, you want to block that up, either using piston rings or insulation or something, because the more heat you have, the more power you make. So, and they run at much, much higher temperatures than internal combustion engine, because obviously the reason of keeping all the heat in. So anyway, but that's pretty much where we are. We're just making every piece. Yeah, it's a nightmare, but it's one we're going to wake up from and be fine. So that's pretty cool. All right, well, that gives you some idea what's going on here. We haven't done a restoration blog in a while, so we thought we'd bring you up to date. Anyway, we'll see you guys again next week, and I hope you enjoyed this look at the shop and what we got going on here. We keep, as you can see, we keep pretty busy. See you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.